Hello everyone, welcome to Ashoka IS. In this class, we are going to talk about the recent Assam and Mizoram border conflict. So recently in the news, we have seen there is a border conflict in between the two northeastern states of Assam and Mizoram. So it is a long border dispute between the two states. Since British time period, we have seen the dispute and it has not yet solved. And because of that, recently we have seen a dramatic event where we have seen the eruption of bloody conflict between the two states. And in this conflict, we have seen six Assam police personnel killed and at least 60 persons were injured when the two sides allegedly fired at each other. So it is a very sad and dramatic event that we have seen in our border of the two states. Now, the Home Minister had to intervene to ensure peace along with the disputed border by finding an amicable settlement. So, after the interference of the Home Minister, we have seen some settlements between the two sides and pulling of the police forces from the main disputed area. Mizoram police forces has moved away to their side, and the Assam police forces has moved to the other side. And the central disputed area is now controlled by the CRPF personnel, the Central Police Forces. Now, Assam's the Barak Valley district. The Barak Valley district of Assam, as you know, the districts consist of Karimganj, Hailakandi, and Kachar. So overall, the three districts, Kachar, Karimganj, and Hailakandi, it shares a boundary of 164.4 kilometer boundary with the three districts of Mizoram, that is Aizawl, Kolasib, and Mamit. So in Assam's three district share the around 165-kilometer border with the three districts of Mizoram. And this borderline of 164.6-kilometer borderline is a disputed area actually. Now you can see here, these are the boundaries. See, this is the Mizoram, this is the state of Mizoram, and this is the state of Assam. Here you can see this is the Kachar, this is the Hailakandi, and this is Mizoram. So three districts of Assam is having boundary with the three districts of Mizoram. Now let's see the historical background here. Now at the heart of this dispute is the over the 165-kilometer Assam-Mizoram boundary are two border demarcations. There are two border demarcations, means two boundary lines, and that are not properly settled by the states, by the two states. There are two border demarcations that go back to the days of the British colonial rule. So this problem, this dispute is not of today's, it is not a present situation, and the problem was there since the British time. The British colonial rule means the demarcations were not correct at that time, and from that time, actually from British colonial era, and both the sides do not agree with the demarcations that is present now. So, and disagreement over which the demarcations to follow. So there is a disagreement between the two states because of these demarcations that are not being accepted by both the sides. Now, see, British tea plantations at the time, as you know, in Assam, there is the British has increased the tea plantations in the state of Assam, in both Barak and Brahmaputra Valley. Now, see, the British tea plantations surfaced in the Kachar Plains also. Okay, at the time, in the Kachar Plains also, the British started the plantations, tea plantations. Now, the Barak Valley that now comprises the districts of Kachar, Hailakandi, and Karimganj during the mid 19th century, and the expansion led to the problems with the Mizos. Now, this expansion of the tea plantations in the Barak Valley in the districts of Kachar, Karimganj, and Hailakandi in the mid 19th century led to the problem. Okay, this expansion of these plantations and the expansion it touched the hills of Lusai. That is Lusai Hills, or you can say Mizo Hills. The Lusai or Mizo Hills were touched by this expansion, by the expansion of these tea plantations, and it is the root cause actually. It is a root cause. So now there will be a border dispute because Lusai Hills, as we know, it is in a Mizo site, and the Kachar, Hailakandi, and Karimganj where tea plantations were they were growing the tea plantations in the Assam part. So there was an expansion at the time, and it touched the boundary, and up to Lusai Hills it touched. Now see, in August 1875, so there is a boundary was drawn in the year 1875, and it was agreed by the Mizos. But later, when in 1933 we have drawn, the British has drawn a boundary. It was not accepted. It was not accepted by the Mizo people. Now, what happened in the year 1875? The southern boundary of Kachar district was issued in the Assam Gazette. So the boundary was issued in the Assam Gazette. The Mizo says that it was the fifth time the British had drawn the boundary between the Lusai Hills and the Kachar Hills. Now, Mizos has agreed with this. They have agreed with this boundary in the year 1875. Now, according to them, it is the fifth time the British tried to draw the boundary between the Lusai Hills and the Kachar district of Assam. And the only time it was done in consultation with the Mizo chiefs. Now, what they said that it is the only time in the year 1875 they have drawn this demarcation or the boundary line with the consultation of the Mizo Hills with the agreement of the Mizo chiefs. Okay, Mizo chiefs. Now this also became the basis for the inner line forest demarcation. So there is a inner line forest also, reserve forest is present there, and this inner line reserve forest that is present in the Hailakandi and Mizoram. Okay, this inner line reserve forest that is present in Hailakandi and Mizoram. So this reserve forest is also demarcated, and for the demarcation of this reserve forest, they have agreed with the line that was drawn in the year 1875. So this line became the basis for the demarcation of innerland reserve forest also, and it was published in the Gazette, okay, in the Assam Gazette. Since the Mizo thinks that they have consulted, the British has consulted the Mizo chiefs, and it is the very fifth time, and they have agreed. The Mizo chiefs they have agreed with this demarcation, so they are okay with this line. This line at the same time also divided the inner line reserve forest that is present in Hailakandi district of Assam and the Mizo Hills, Mizoram. Now see, in 1933, the problem will start now. In the year 1933, the boundary between the Lusai Hills and the then princely states of Manipur was demarcated again. Okay, Lusai Hills means Mizo Hills, and the Manipur state. Okay, princely state of Manipur. There was again a demarcation. The Mizos did not accept the demarcation at that time. Okay, the Mizos did not accept the demarcation at the time and point to the 1875 boundary which was drawn in consultation with their chiefs. Now, what is the problem here? Is that the 1933 the 1933 line, it was drawn again. It was drawn in between the boundaries of Assam, Manipur, and Mizoram, and this line was not agreed by the Mizos because they considered an 1875 boundary. They think that it was the only boundary that was drawn with with consultation with their chiefs, Mizo chiefs. So that is the reason why they only agree with this 1875, and they do not agree with this 1933 boundary line. Now, in the decades later, we have seen after independence, the Assam got divided into many states like Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, and Mizoram. And with this division, again, the boundary issues has come. It is very natural when a country will get divided or a state will get divided, any landmarks, any land boundary will get divided. There will be some issues between the parts of the countries that will be formed. Okay, the different country or the different states or any landmarks that will be formed, there will be some issues will be there. Some of them will agree and some of them will not agree. So it is a very natural process. Now, after this division, division of the state of Assam into different newly formed states like Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, and Mizoram, we have seen some disputes both with Nagaland, Meghalaya, and Mizoram. Now, when we talk about Mizoram, in Mizoram, it was granted the statehood in the year 1987. Before that, it was a union territory. Mizoram was declared as union territory in the year 1972, and it was declared as a full-fledged state in the year 1987. Now, the Mizo tribal leaders they raised a border dispute. Now, after they were declared as a state, now the Mizo tribal leaders they have started to raise the border dispute, claiming that Assam had taken their land. Now, in the year 1995. For the first time, we have seen the skirmishes for the first time in the year 1995. The first major skirmishes were reported. Major skirmishes were reported in the Lusai Hills around the border when the Mizoram government tried to settle people there as per the 1875 demarcation. Since the Mizo, they think that 1875 is the correct demarcation line. They followed this line and accordingly they tried to settle some of their people in those areas based on this 1875 demarcation, and it led to a major skirmishes between the two sides. And in this situation, in this year 1995, when the Mizoram government tried to settle some people, there are some clashes, and nearly 50%, including journalists, were injured in 2018 after some Mizo society, civil society groups tried to set up a hut on the disputed boundary. Now again, see, this 50 people, those who had died, they have died in the year 2018. Okay, in 1995, some major skirmishes were there, but the 50 persons, around 50 persons died, and actually injured, not died. They have injured in the year 2018. In the year 2018, they got injured after some Mizo civil society groups tried to set up a hut in the disputed boundary. So overall, we can see the dispute was going on since 1995, and in the year 2018, we have seen around 50% got injured. So it was a very serious matter. It was a very serious matter because people are getting injured at the boundary of in between the two states within the country only. So it was a very serious issue. Now see, now both officials said according to an agreement between Mizoram and Assam, status quo was to be maintained in the no man's land. So both the officials, they agreed that status quo should be maintained, means no one will enter into the other boundaries. No one will enter the disputed area. Actually, they will stay away from the disputed area, both the sides. This is a disputed area, and no one will enter here or settle here or do some constructive activity, any kind of road or railway, all these things, construction should be avoided in these regions according to this status quo. So both of the officials, they agreed with an agreement that both Mizoram and Assam sides, they agreed that the status quo was to be maintained in the no man's land in the border area. But this was broken. This status quo was broken by the Mizo side in the year February 2018. There was violence when the students' union, Mizo Jirlai Paul, built a wooden rest house for farmers on land that was claimed by Assam also, and which was demolished by Assam police at the same time. So it led to a major skirmishes where around 50 people got injured. And recently in the year 2021, we have seen a clash between the two sides, both between Assam police and Mizoram police, and few Assam policemen died, along with around 60 policemen got injured. So this was about the topic of this, between the problem between the two sides, Assam and Mizoram. And again, we have seen in the year 2019 that the two states agreed to maintain the status quo and have no man's land in the disputed area. So they have, from time to time, they agreed to maintain the status quo. But the recent problem in the year 2021, we have seen that there was a clash, and it was not a minor one, it was a very major clash. And we have seen the use of guns, machine guns, and grenades, all these things. Then we have it has killed 6 police persons in Assam, and many of them got injured. So it is a very big issue. So now the peace is maintained now after the interference of the Home Minister. CRPF has more battalion of CRPF is deployed now in the disputed area. Now in future, we hope that the situation will come in control, and both the sides come to an conclusion, sir, so that they can solve the border issues for talks. Okay, so this was about the Assam Mizoram border conflict, and main things were covered here from your examination point of view. And if you need some more information, some more content, then you can let us know. We'll come up with more content. Okay, thank you.